Lagyu trashi patu che tempe trinle yarmoda pelge drolo zambe tse parache palden lame shabla solvade Omo a guru vajra dara sumati muni shasane karma Uta vardani shri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasane Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Pakyuke Kudan Dagi Lu Pakyuke Sundan Dagi Nga Pakyuke Tukdan Dagi Ten Yerme Chiktu Jingi Lu Makyuke Kudan Dagi Lu Makyuke Sundan Dagi Nga Makyuke tukdan dagi ten yerme chiktu jingi alo. Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakya Muni Svoha Sangye chedan soge chanam la jancho pardo dani kyapso chi dagi jinso gibe sonam gi drola pinchra sangye drupa rasho Sangye chedan soge chanam la jancho pardo dani kyapso chi dagi jinso gibe sonam gi drola pinchra sangye drupa rasho Sangye chedan tsoge chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapso chi dagi jinso gibe sonam gi rola pinchira sangye druparasho. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. So this morning we were looking at the process of the three transformations. Especially we were seeing the part which regards the first of the three transformations, which is transforming death into the Dharmakaya. The first transformation is extremely important because it's only through the first transformation, transforming the death into the Dharmakaya, that it's possible to transform the bardo into the Samboghakaya, and then it's possible to transform the rebirth into Nirmanakaya. It is somehow connected to the fact that it's also, this type of practice, this transformation, it is also connected and very important in order to generate ourselves as the deity. One of the important aspects in Vajrayana Buddhism is to generate ourselves as the deity. We call the self-generation. So we can generate ourselves developing and divine pride as being the Buddha, as being Tara, as being Yamantaka, Guhya Samaja, whatever emanation or form, appearance of Buddha that there may be. Okay. What happens is that in order for me to generate a real pure identity as a Buddha, I must first eliminate my own gross, ordinary identity that I have right now. Otherwise, here I am, me, Lama Michel, with my gross body, everything, my gross identity. I generate myself as Green Tara, no? And then there I am, Green Tara, I visualize myself as Tara. It's not really working in a sense. Because this is a little bit like carnival, like I imagine myself putting as if I am Tara. No, I don't see myself as Tara. I become Tara. And the only way for me to become truly Tara, or Yamantaka, or Buddha Shakyamuni, or Akshobhya, or whatever other practice we may do, the only way for me truly to become is first I must eliminate my ordinary identity. And how do I do that? I die. So I simulate the process of death. And by simulating the process of death, we can eliminate our gross identity. And by eliminating our gross identity, then out of that we generate ourselves as the Buddha. Okay? It is very important of this. If we do not do the first transformation well, we can never generate ourselves as the deity correctly. So first of all, we need to do this. First of all, we need to go through the process of death, transform the death into Dharmakaya, and from that we can generate ourselves truly, purely as the Buddha. So, once we have done this very important step of transforming the death into the Dharmakaya, as we explained before, we go now to the second step, which I would do it a little bit briefly, the transforming death into the bardo into the Samboghakaya and rebirth into the Nirmanakaya, because after we need some time still to do the 9 mixings, okay? So in the moment after that, there we are meditating on the state of the Dharmakaya, where there is nothing more than an infinite great emptiness, empty of inherent existence, inseparable of great bliss, and I am the non-dual union of great bliss and emptiness. From that state, after some time, we stay in it as long as we want, and then after some time, and just one bracket, in many sadhanas it says that's the main part of the practice actually, then the rest you do after. It says, okay, when you get tired of meditating on this, then you can do mantras basically. So it's a very important part of the meditation. So after some time we are in the state of the clear light, in union with the Dharmakaya, then we generate the intention, I want to be of benefit for other sentient beings. But if I stay in this only in this state, only another Buddha is able to see the Dharmakaya of another Buddha. So only other Buddhas can see me as my Dharmakaya. So I must generate another more gross body, which is first a subtle body. Then, from within the state of clear light, in an instant appears the universe. Just like when we fall asleep and suddenly we wake up in a dream. After the clear light of death, the bardo appears in an instant. Similar to that, in an instant appears the universe, and we appear with a pure body, sitting on a lotus flower, with a sun and a moon cushion. We appear with a pure body of light. The pure body of light that we have, it can be in the form of the deity with one face, 2 arms, and so on, or it can be also as just a beam of light. More or less the size of the forehand. So around 40-50 centimeters long, and then just like a beam of light. Depending on the practices, depending on the sadhanas, in some sadhanas we generate ourselves as the Buddha with a subtle body of light, with one face, 2 arms, implements, and so on. And in other practices, other sadhanas, we generate ourselves just as a beam of light. I personally like the idea of the beam of light because it gives a more clear idea of a subtle body. Okay? The point is that we generate ourselves within a body of light. If this body of light has the shape of a Buddha, or if you don't have the shape and it's just a beam of light, in both cases are fine. Okay? So we generate ourselves as this beam of light or as this body of light, and then from that we start doing the enlightened actions of helping other sentient beings. We go to sentient beings, we eliminate their sufferings, then the emanations come back, reabsorb into us. Then we can also imagine that as we are in this state of like subtle body, we go to Tushita, the Pure Lander, we go to meet Buddha Maitreya, and then Lama Tsongkhapa is there, Atisha is there, we say hello to them. Then we can go to other Pure Lands, and we can go to help sentient beings, we can be a bit active. And at some point after this, then we come to the conclusion in which we say, okay, nice, but I want to help everyone. And most of the other sentient beings, I can only truly help if I adapt myself to their abilities. So I must have a gross body. Okay? And from that moment, we will do the transformation of birth into the Nirmanakaya. The one we have just done now is the transforming bardo into the Samboghakaya. The next step is transforming rebirth into Nirmanakaya. There are different ways of doing this practice or through the visualizations. The one I like to explain is a little bit connected to the practice of Guya Samaja, which is more detailed. Some are more detailed, some are less detailed. Okay? In this practice, it gives the following explanation. We visualize that we are in the sky. Under us, below us, we see a lotus flower with 8 petals. And the lotus flower has in the center a sun and a moon cushion, where the moon cushion is on top of a sun cushion, and it becomes pink of color. The two mix together. Okay? And then as we see that's my opportunity of rebirth, and we direct ourselves to it, not with the attachment to the mother or aversion to the father or vice versa, but with the intention to benefit others. So it's out of the will of benefiting other sentient beings that we go to it for our rebirth. So imagine that we dive into it. And then as we touch it, we transform ourselves in the sit syllable that gradually transforms into the symbol, then transforms into the fully body of a Buddha. Okay. Here there is also an analogy which is quite correct also, in which we can relate that. The sit syllable, which is always in the heart, represents actually the very subtle body and mind. Remember that body is always going with the mind and the speech. The symbol represents the subtle body, and the full body, the gross body. Okay? So we first develop, as we enter into the lotus represents the mother's wound, and then where the white and the red mix together, the sun and the moon cushion mix together, represents the mother and the father energies as the union of the ovum and the sperm, the white and red bodhicitta. So we go to it. As we enter into it, we enter into it, and then in an instant, we appear inside that lotus that before we were looking from above. Now we are looking from inside of it. We appear on top of the sun and moon cushion in the form of the sit syllable. Then the sit syllable transforms into the Buddha. Actually, to be precise, from the sit syllable, light emanates, going to all the Buddhas, making offerings and coming back. Go to all the sentient beings, help them, and then come back and reabsorb. Through that power and blessings, then it transforms into the symbol. Again, from the symbol, light emanates, going to all the Buddhas, making offerings, going to all sentient beings, helping them, taking them out of suffering, and all the emanations of light come back and reabsorb into the symbol. Then the symbol transforms into the fully Buddha. And this is when the birth process is complete. And we generate ourselves as Tara, or as Yamantaka, or as Akshobhya, or as Ratnasambhava, or one of the 5 mothers, one of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, any form of a Buddha, depending on the sadhana that we are doing. Okay? So, this is the process of transforming rebirth. If we want to go into more details, we can actually remember each one of the processes of the process of rebirth. So first, black vision, red vision, clear light, wind, fire, water, earth. We can go through this also on the opposite way. But the visualization that we do is just as I have just explained, and then gradually we generate ourselves with a gross body to be of benefit for other sentient beings. Then after that, we have the simulation of the enlightened actions. That's when we do the recitation of mantras and so on. But then we are already entering another part of the practice. Okay? So this is where we have the 3 transformations. We transform death into the Dharmakaya. As a result of that, we transform the bardo into the Samboghakaya and the rebirth into the Nirmanakaya. We simulate that process. Okay? Well, now we go to see the 9 mixings. So, once we have done the 3 transformations, the next step is what is called the 9 mixings, or the 9 unions. The precise translation is the 9 mixings. So in this small notes that I have prepared for you here, we have them cited. There is no any real explanation on them, but we have a list of them. So the 9 mixings, 9 unions, the 3 unions during the state of waking, of when we are awake, the three unions during sleep, and the three unions at the moment of death. Okay. So the first three. The union of the clear light of meditation. Sorry, I wrote here mediation. This is Google Translator. Not mediation, but meditation. The union of the clear light in meditation with the Dharmakaya, the truth body, which is the very subtle mind that realizes in a non-dual way its own nature as being free from intrinsic existence. This is what we had explained before today. So, the union or the mixing. What do we mix here? We mix the clear light of meditation, which is the death of meditation, with the Dharmakaya. First two mixing. Second mixing is we mix the bardo in meditation with the Samboghakaya, the enjoyment body, the subtle body of a Buddha. This is what we explained before today. In meditation, I imagine the process of death and I transform into the Dharmakaya. I imagine the bardo and I transform into the Samboghakaya. And then the third, the union of the rebirth in meditation with the Nirmanakaya, the emanation body, which means within a state of meditation, we imagine the process of rebirth, and within that process, we generate ourselves as the Buddha, as the Nirmanakaya. These first three mixings is what we explained before today. Okay? Now, the next three mixings, or the next three unions, which are the ones that we do during sleep. The union of the clear light of sleep with the Dharmakaya. What is the clear light of sleep? It's not something that we imagine. It's something that physically actually happens. Okay? When we fall asleep, as we said the other day, naturally we go through the process of dissolution of the elements. First, earth dissolves into water and we fall like falling down. We feel like falling down. We feel like the body gets weak, the eyes start to get closed, and so on. Then earth dissolves into water, water dissolves into fire, fire dissolves into wind, wind dissolves into the space of consciousness, then we fall asleep. Then we still have, in order to go to a deeper state of sleep, we need to go to the white vision, red vision, black vision, and clear light of the sleep. So here, it's not talking about meditating on the process of death during the process of sleep. Actually, the true practice is to be aware of the process of falling asleep. Is to be able to observe in a non-conceptual way the process of dissolution of the elements as we fall asleep. It is difficult, yes, but it is possible. That's why first we need to practice the three transformations as we are awake in meditation, and the more we do it in meditation, the more we will gradually be able to do it also as we fall asleep. The more I meditate and I say, okay, now earth dissolves into water, this and that is happening, my body is falling, I have this sensation, I see the mirage-like vision, and so on. After this, there will be the water dissolving into fire, then the water dissolves into fire, then after that there is the fire dissolving into wind. We keep this awareness in meditation. The more we do, then we can start to observe this process of dissolution as we fall asleep. And then as we fall asleep, there is first the gross falling asleep, and then there is the subtle falling asleep. When we fall asleep in the subtle part, the end of it, just before we start dreaming, is called the clear light of sleep. Okay? So the objective is to be able to recognize the clear light of sleep and to mix it with the Dharmakaya. So the same meditation of transforming the death into the Dharmakaya that we explained before, we do it in the process of sleep. But instead of simulating the process of death in meditation, we do it through the process of falling asleep. And then here is not anymore the clear light of meditation, it's the clear light of sleep that we generate as the Dharmakaya. After that, there is the union of the dreaming with the Samboghakaya. The union of the dreaming with the Samboghakaya is actually when, from the state of clear light of sleep, in an instant, we start dreaming. But then we dream in a way being aware that we are dreaming. It's a lucid dream. We are aware that we are dreaming, and within the dream, we generate ourselves as the Buddha in our dream. And as we are dreaming, we go to do all the most nice enlightened actions. So we go to the Pure Lands, we go to help other sentient beings, we get very busy during the night, making the pure actions of a Buddha. Okay? So in this moment, we transform the dream into the Samboghakaya. And then as we are dreaming, at a certain point, we say, okay, now I need to wake up, because I need to help sentient beings in a more gross level. So I generate myself as a pure form in the moment of sleep. So from that moment, I generate the intention to help others in a gross level, then I awake. And as I awake, there is a tradition also of snapping the finger, which means from an instant, I appear as the deity in a gross body. And then, for example, I like to do in the morning the first prayer, which is the prayer that we have in self-healing, the very short 6-session Guru Yoga. So I like in the first prayer to do in the morning is Lama Kunjo Sumla Kyapso Chi Ranya Lase Dodri Sungne Cho Donga Cho Sunyer Cho Tada Dom Gecho Kundu Jishin Drudunje. I take refuge in the Guru and the three jewels. I am clearly as the Guru Buddha holding Vajra and bell, which means I am holding method and wisdom. Okay? It's not the physical Vajra and bell. It means I hold method and wisdom, great bliss and emptiness, love, compassion, and wisdom. I hold Vajra and bell, method and wisdom. Lama Kunjo Rani Lase Dori Sungne Cho Donga Cho Sonyer Cho Tada Dom. I will uphold all the dharmas of Sutra and Tantra. Gecho Kuntu Jishin Drudunche. And I will do all the virtuous actions, like 10 virtuous actions and the 4 generosities and so on. And through that, I will benefit others. Okay? So we generate, as we wake up, just sleepy, okay, now wake up, okay. Just sit down an instant, or laying down also. It's better to sit down. Just sit down before doing anything. Lama Kunjo Sumla Kyapso Chi Ranya Lase Dodri Sungne Cho Donga Cho Sonyer Cho Tada Gecho Kundu Jishin Drudunje. Generate in one instant myself as, take refuge, generate oneself as the Buddha. So I was sleeping, then from sleep, we imagine that we're still from the state of the dream, we generate ourselves as the Buddha, as the Yidam, with the intention to act in accordance with the Dharma to help others. Okay? So this is, very briefly, the 3 transformations during sleep. What we can start doing since this very right moment is to imagine the process of the dream. Okay? Is to prepare ourselves for the dream. So the first thing that we need to do is to be able to dream in a lucid way, to be aware that we are dreaming. There are different techniques for that. One thing that Trungpa Rinpoche describes is that he says, when we have when we have a very deep sleep and we are not able to dream because our sleep is too deep, then we need to visualize Buddha Amitabha or the syllable A in our throat when we fall asleep. So if normally we are not aware of dreaming because our sleep is too deep, then we concentrate on our throat chakra as we fall asleep with a red A or Buddha Amitabha. When instead our sleep is too light and because of that we are not able to dream well because we are not sleeping deep enough, then we concentrate on Buddha Akshobhya or the syllable Hum at our heart as we fall asleep. Okay? Because bringing the energy to the heart will bring us to a deeper sleep, bringing it to the throat will bring us to the state of dreaming. Because it says that when we dream, our energy goes to the throat chakra. Okay? When we have a deep sleep, it goes to the heart chakra, and when we wake, it goes to the secret chakra. Okay? So basically, there is as we fall asleep, that our drops, which is let's say the more subtle energy of the drops, they move in different positions also. So when we fall, a deep sleep is in the heart, dreaming is in the throat, and awakening is in the secret chakra. Okay? This is the 3 ways that it goes. So if we concentrate on the throat in order to dream more, we concentrate on the heart in order to have a deeper state of sleeping. Okay? One other thing that we do is before we fall asleep, we make our prayers and we request, oh, please, Guru Buddha, please bless me so that I may be able to be aware during my dreams. May I be able to be aware during my dreams. May I be able to be aware during my dreams. We repeat these things to I will be aware during my dreams. I will be aware during my dreams. We repeat that to ourselves again and again. Okay. There is one thing that here Tunka Rinpoche describes. He say one method also, in order to be aware during the dreams, is that some nights not to sleep, to pass the whole night awake, and but act during the night thinking that we are dreaming. So it's like we enter into this state of half sleep, half being awake, but actually we are awake. And we don't know really so much if we are dreaming or if we are awake. We act as if we were dreaming. We simulate like if we were dreaming. It's like generating this state in which, yes, I am awake, and I think I am dreaming, or I am dreaming and I think I am awake. I don't know so much anymore. It's like generating this type of, hybrid feeling, like mixing together of this. So we somehow create some familiarity with the idea of being aware as we dream. Okay? One friend one time told me of one technique that she learned in one, not a Buddhist technique, but she said for her worked well. For example, that was that during the day, she would need to say every time she passed through a door, she would need to ask herself, am I awake or am I sleeping? I am awake. Then just fast. Then don't think anymore. Then open another door. Am I awake or am I sleeping? I am awake. Then go through another door. Am I awake or am I sleeping? I am awake. Make this for many, many days, every day, until a moment. She told that for her it worked. It worked like this. The technique is supposed that when you are dreaming, then suddenly in the dream you see you going through a door and you ask in the dream, am I awake or am I sleeping? Then in the dream you say, I am dreaming. Sorry, the question is not I am awake or am I sleeping. Is this I am awake or is it a dream? I am awake or is it a dream? So when you do this every day, that during the sleep, at one point you go through a door and during a dream, and then you ask, I am awake or is this a dream? Then you say, this is a dream. Okay? So the objective is to be able to be aware that we are dreaming. I had this few times. It's actually a very nice sensation. And then, once we are aware that we are dreaming, then we need to generate ourselves in the dream as the Buddha, as the Idam, and then act in accordance, and so on and so on. Okay? The point here is that once we are able truly to transform the clear light of sleep into the Dharmakaya, and to transform the dream into the Samboghakaya, and to transform the awakening into the Nirmanakaya, this is the most clear sign that we are truly ready to transform death into the Dharmakaya, bardo into the Samboghakaya, rebirth into the Nirmanakaya. Okay? How to do that? Meditate. Sit down in the cushion, go through the 3 transformations again and again and again and again. The more we do, the more we get used to it, I was remembering, for example, when I did the walls here, the tattoo wall here, few of us, we worked like many hours, something like 18 hours a day in Photoshop. I was sleeping very little. But when I slept, I would dream in pixels sometimes. And more than one night, I was dreaming, and in my dream, the dream was like the screen of Photoshop with the tools of Photoshop going on. I was doing that for hours and hours and hours and hours, for days and days and days. That was what I was dreaming about. That's why we say meditate on the 3 transformations for hours and hours and hours and days and months, then after you do in your dream. This is what someone do when we enter into retreat. Now just sharing. Nowadays we are sponsoring as a center 2 geishas that are doing 3 years retreat. One here in Albagnano, another one in south of India. So we're very happy that we are able to do that. But what is the process of these long retreats? Basically, is first we learn all the philosophy, then we learn all the theory during the Tantra and receive all the empowerments, the commentaries. Then need to meditate, which means do the sadhana, do the 3 transformations in meditation few times a day, minimum 4 times a day, and then at night meditate on it also. And when we are able to create this habit of meditating on it again and again as we are awake, and we have no many other distractions and so on, then it will come on the dream. Much more easy. Okay? The first time I read this and I received these teachings the first time, for me, was like a clear sign saying, it is possible to reach enlightenment. Here is the tool. It's in our hand. Then it depends on us if we do it or if we don't do it, And I wanted to say, it's like, please, we need to remember that this is not a game. It's not like, oh, let's do something nice, beautiful. It's a tool to get out of suffering. It's a tool to reach enlightenment. For centuries, people passed long, long times waiting for teachings, looking for them, offering everything they had in order to receive the teachings, dedicating their life for it. And nowadays we receive everything in a so easy manner, no? Which is very good in a way, but it's a little danger in another, because somehow we may not give the right value to it, which means we may not really put into practice. Say, okay, that looks nice, but... These teachings have been kept for a very long time in a secret way, because they were given only for those that were ready to put them into practice. But nowadays, we do not live in the context anymore in which it's possible to do that. First of all, we don't live together, like in a monastery where monks used to live together with their masters. So, even if I would be the one to teach, I'm not like ready to see which level each one it is and then guide it. We don't have this sort of familiarity anymore in this way. But the second point is also that if we do not start talking about it and learning about it and trying to practice, we will never do it. So there must be a start. So it makes me extremely happy that we could go through it these days together and go through the explanation and try to have some understanding, also because I could have taken these 4 days and just do the visualization again and again, which is wonderful also. But we from our culture need to understand. So that's why I wanted to share with you clearly the meaning of each one of these. And the 9 mixings is the 3 mixings during awake, the 3 mixings during dream, during sleep, and the 3 mixings during death. Okay, the actual. Which means once we prepare, during our lifetime, we only do the first 6. The first 6 is preparation. The first 3 during awake is the first preparation. It's like, okay, we just prepare with a theory and we simulate it. Okay? In theory, with visualization. The dream is like we enter into the simulator. Like first we learn the theory and we imagine we are flying. The second 3, we go to the actual simulator for flying. And luckily we can crash many times because this is just a simulator. So we go to sleep, which sometimes it's okay, sometimes not. We can sleep many nights and we can have many opportunities to do it. The third one is we take the actual plane in our hands, and now there is the actual thing. Now we fly, we go to enlightenment. So it's like, this is the actual moment of death, what we do. It is possible. It is something that we have in our hands. And one thing that I must say is that it's true that for many centuries these teachings were given mainly to a monastic context, for monasteries, people that for them it would be different, because for most of you, it's not like, okay, I received the most precious teachings on how to transform death and the bardo and the rebirth. Now I must meditate. So you go to your boss in your job and say, sorry, excuse me, for the next 3 months I will enter into retreat. Possibly if you can continue to give me my pay, so at least you can pay my bills and so on. But I'm going to go into retreat. What our boss is going to say? Please go into retreat. But be sure that when you come back, you don't have your job anymore here, no? And most probably while we are in the retreat, one day we are going to enlightenment, but one day we try to turn the lights on and they're not turning on anymore because we didn't pay the bills, okay? So what happens is that we live in a context in which it's not so simple just to give up many things and just to enter into meditation for a long period. But this doesn't mean that there is not much that we can do. So to meditate on the 3 transformations every day, very shortly, it's already a big thing to do. It is inside the practice of self-healing. It is inside of every sadhana. we can at least, when we fall asleep, imagine the process of death as we are falling asleep. Simulate the process of death. Everything dissolves into me, then I dissolve into the home, then gradually the home dissolves into clear light with the intention to be aware during the dream. We wake up with the intention to help others and generate ourselves in a pure form, at least with the intention, It's something that we can do. And this gradually will make these imprints that Thongkar Losang Trina Rinpoche was talking about deeper and deeper into us. And these imprints will give us stronger and stronger the possibility to be able to really make it actually happen. Okay? So, one of the important things, sure, we may say that it is very difficult for us to put it all into practice and so on, but as Thongkar Losang Trina said in this text, he was saying, I get you the citation to be very precise. Sewa sumgi menga te ngosu laglen la kyolwa yina tachime. Sumgi menga la kowa chakpa tsamgi. Kowa chakpa tsamgi kyang chitusu ngen sumgi kyowa goktuba tsammase. Kyowa chimar sanga drube ten sambo tomne. Sanga gi pakcha kebra chen jok tubgi yoba yinsans. Gende nyingyo gi lama kongma tsangme sewa korsum dila ngakjo chembo nangyo. He says, if we are able truly to put into practice the 3 transformations and the 9 mixings, no doubt it's of great, great benefit for us. But even the simple fact of only having the imprints in our mind of the 9 mixings, which means just understanding, this is the meaning of transforming death into the Dharmakaya, that means transforming bardo into the Samboghakaya, that's the meaning of transforming rebirth into the Nirmanakaya. That's how it's done during meditation, that's how it's done during the sleep, that's how it's done during death. Just to have this understanding and some familiarization with it, by imprinting in our mind the 9 mixings, just that by itself can assure the practitioner to have a good rebirth and to be reborn with a body that allows him to practice that Vajrayana path, with the imprints to practice correctly the path of the Vajrayana. And that's the reason why, here he says very clear, that's the reason why the masters of our lineage of the past, and here he recites perfectly the same lineage as we have, because there is a difference between a tradition and a lineage, no? Tradition is the system. So, for example, we follow the Gelupa tradition, where we have the specific teachings and so on of coming from Lama Tsongkhapa. Within one tradition, there are different lineages. The lineages is the line of transmission. The same tradition can have different line of transmissions. They all start with Lama Tsongkhapa in this case, but we can have different lines of transmission. Our line of transmission, so-called lineage, is called the Gelo Ganden Nyingyu, which means the whispered lineage of Ganden. Whispered because it's verbal, it's oral, one by one, not written. It's by heart to heart. So here he says, that's why the previous masters of all the previous masters of the whispered lineage of Ganden have given so much great importance into teaching the 9 mixings. So, even though we may not be able to fully put it into practice, at least by having some understanding of it and some familiarization with it, we put it in the imprints on our mind. That by itself already will direct our mind in a positive way. Okay, and this is already very important for us. So, going towards a conclusion, for me it is a great pleasure to be able to share these teachings with you during these days. I know that time is not necessarily enough to see everything in a detailed way, and I would like to do the practice together and do these things, but the time does not allow us to do this in 4 days. But still, I'm very happy of all that we could see. One of the things I wanted to do, which I think somehow at a certain level I could do, was to share with you my own mental image of death. which is we started maybe with an idea that death is something horrible, difficult, ugly, whatever. Now we can see that death actually is the most beautiful opportunity we have. That's why we need to have a long life to prepare ourselves to use this opportunity in the best way as we may. Okay? Because we have to die by itself, there is nothing so special. We have died so many times. Every life we died, no? And it's said in some teachings of Lamrim, if we put together all the heads of all the lives that we had, it's higher than the Mount Meru. Let's put it, it's bigger than the Everest, let's say. But at this life, what is so important is that we have the opportunity of having the instructions and the transmission and the lineage of how to use death as a way to get out of suffering. So, such a precious opportunity. So this is it. We really, at least we should try to do some meditation on it. That's the minimum, to familiarize ourselves with the process and study what comes out and learn how it is and so on. In this book, Kewalo Santin Rinpoche, this master, he writes the practice of the 9 mixings, uniting the Guru Puja with 5 Dhyani Buddhas. So basically, making it simple is putting together the Guru Puja, which is the preliminaries, Guru Yoga, together with self-healing. So basically, you should do self-healing in the end of the Guru Puja before the absorption of the merit field. And then, at that point, add the self-healing practice. And during the practice of self-healing, there are some moments in which we can do the 3 transformations. One of them is after making Eyam Ran Lambam, in which we have the purification of great bliss and emptiness. Then we do Sobhava Shuddha Sarva Dharma Sobhava Shuddha, meditate on emptiness with great bliss, and then from that we start the dissolution of the elements. This is where we do the transformation of death into the Dharmakaya. Then we do the transformation of bardo into Samboghakaya, rebirth into the Nirmanakaya, all the 5 chakras and making the empowerment from the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. No? And then we go to where we have the different, in the secret empowerment and so on. One of the ways of doing it is the Omani Padme Hum, white bodhicitta, represents the red vision, the white vision. Omani Padme Hum, red bodhicitta, represents the red vision. Om Mahasukha Hum, absorption, represents the black vision. Vishwa Shanti, clear light. Okay? So self-healing is also a way of preparing ourselves for the process of death, of making this practice itself. And as we go through that, and after that, Lama Kunjo Sumla Kyavsuchi, once again I generate myself as the deity. Okay? So, there are different ways in the practices where we can do these transformations, and actually we are supposed to do it again and again in order to get familiarized with it. So we train ourselves during meditation, to train ourselves during sleep, to try to make it happen in our death. So this is something that is very, very special. I hope deeply that everyone can take it as something precious and bring it to life. Also because we receive this within a life lineage. It's not something that we read from a book and we are reading here all together. These are instructions that have coming from heart to heart, from master to disciple for centuries, and we receive them here also. So it's something extremely precious that we have. As it's said in the Guru Puja, Lam namasi chiwe duchena tsendap tsangya lame poani tomgayanda jarwe damgagi takpe shintu drobar jinglo. If by the end of this life I have not been able to fulfill the essential points of the path, which means, in other words, if when I reach the end of this life I was not able truly to prepare myself in order to transform death into the Dharmakaya, may I, through the 5 forces and through the power, which is the practice of transference of consciousness from the Guru, may I be able to have a positive rebirth in a pure land. So one of the practices to assure us that we have a positive rebirth and to prepare ourselves for death is called the 5 forces, Tomnga. The 5 forces is a very important way of practicing. The 5 forces is a practice in which we prepare ourselves for death, not to transform death into the path to enlightenment, but to prepare to deal with death. And this is the basis. On top of that, if we can really transform death into the path to enlightenment, that's much, much better. But first we need to have the 5 forces. Okay? So in very, very, very few words, they are. Top, we have the carpe sapiens top, or the power or the force of virtue, which I'm making it simple. I'm not entering into details. It means abandoning the attachment to material things and seeing material things as a mean and not as a goal. Second force, the force of intention, which means abandoning the attachment to this body and this name in this life and directing ourselves to how we want to be in a future life, have been able to direct ourselves beyond this life. So no attachment to material things, no attachment to the body. Third is called the power of opposition, in which we recognize that mental defilements are just bringing us more suffering, and we make the commitment not to follow them. Fourth is called the power of prayer, Möllamgitop, which is where we familiarize our mind with what we want. We direct our mind with our wishes, which is, may I always be inseparable of love and compassion, may I always be together with a guru that guides me correctly on the path, and so on. And then we have the 5th power, which is called the power or the force of familiarization, which means to familiarize ourselves during our lifetime with a mind of love and compassion, which is bodhicitta towards others. Okay. If we do these 5 forces, then we can assure ourselves that we are going to have a good rebirth. This is the first step. On top of that, we can train on the 3 transformations in order to be able to transform death into the Dharmakaya, bardo into the Samboghakaya, rebirth into the Nirmanakaya. But the first step is to transform death. If we transform death correctly, the rest will come quite spontaneously. Okay? So, death is the best opportunity that we may ever have, but we need to prepare ourselves for it and not take it for granted, okay? Another aspect which is very, very simple, but it can be useful for us or for other people also, is one visualization that can be done. I'm just making it very, very simple, is that we visualize on our heart, where is our very subtle mind or our soul, whatever we like to call it, and we visualize like one beam of light, like one rope of light, which is going from our heart through our central channel out of our head, and then it goes to the heart of Guru Buddha that is above us, the space in front of us. Guru Buddha can be Buddha Maitreya, can be Buddha Shakyamuni, can be our own guru, depending on the person. Let's say if we are helping someone from our family or whoever else, and the person, for example, has faith in Jesus, you can say, okay, imagine Jesus in front of you. And then this light in a golden color is taking the mind up from the head, and we melt into the heart of Guru Buddha, or into the heart of Jesus, or a source of light representing all the good qualities, whatever the person suits better to the mind of the person. Because the important thing in the moment of death is not to visualize the Buddha, is to generate a mind of faith, of gratitude, of respect, of love and compassion. Okay? So if the person has as a reference of love and compassion Jesus, wonderful. Should visualize Jesus. We should not force anyone, now you should visualize Buddha, otherwise who knows what happened to you. No, not at all. We could even teach the person how to do the practice of Guru Yoga with Jesus. That would even be possible, but this is another subject, okay? The point is that the important thing is we need to help the person peace, of gratitude, of love, of kindness. How we do that, if the image of Buddha or Jesus, the important thing. That's the tool in that case, okay? So as we come from a Buddhist background, we use the Buddhist images because that's our objects of faith, but depending on with whom we are. So if we are helping someone that is our family member or who else, and that this person have another type of faith, or if it's a person that has no faith in any type of religious thing, just imagine a source of light representing love, representing stability, representing peace. A person with no faith still believes in qualities, and most of the time have principles. So we said, okay, go to a source of light. Imagine that you are taken to a source of light. Okay, this is another point. Or not just feel that your body is filled up with this beautiful, warm, nice light of love and compassion. This is another way that is possible also, okay? But it exists also the practice of POA. The practice is this practice to make the self into this practice is a realized master. He can mind of the person go in this direction, okay? But the best preparation that we should do is to live our life coherently, to develop love, compassion, to make the best of ourselves, to prepare with the 5 forces, so no attachment to material things, to our body, familiarize ourselves with not following mental defilements, develop our own qualities, dedicate ourselves for what is the best for us. Okay? This is the basis. Then on top of that, if we can prepare ourselves by meditating on the 3 transformations, especially transforming death into the Dharmakaya, that's beautiful, that's wonderful, that's powerful. Okay? But we have these tools in our hands. Anyhow, this whole teachings about the 3 transformations and the 9 mixings is not something that we can conclude in 4 days. Actually, it takes a whole lifetime. As we said in the beginning today, the process of learning and practicing is not linear, it's cyclic, it's like a spiral. So we have seen today one part. You are very lucky nowadays that there is streaming and you can go again and again and listening to it again and again. In the past, that was not possible. In the past, people will make the request of a teachings, they will get it once, and now you meditate. Finish. Like some masters, like Tunkalo Sentrinle, what they would do is, as the master was teaching, like he was doing this with Trijang Rinpoche. Trijang Rinpoche have few of them that were doing this. While Trijang Rinpoche was teaching, they were taking notes. And Tunkalo Sentrinle Rinpoche had many teachings together with him also. And they were together, and he said that Tunkalo Sentrinle was young, but he knew how to write in Tibetan very well, which is quite difficult actually. And while Trijang Rinpoche was speaking, he was there looking to Trijang Rinpoche like this, and he was just writing. Sometimes he would just look down and he would go like this, no? So even like liberation in the palm of your hand. This is what? It's the notes which were taken by Trijang Rinpoche while Paponko Rinpoche was teaching, no? Which thereafter they are put together into a book. So nowadays what we do, we take the notes out of the transcription of the recordings. Originally they were taken by hand at the time and memory, no? So nowadays we can go back, we can listen again, but please take advantage of the tools that we have. Remember, this is something very precious. This is something that we should not take for granted. And take into our life these 3 transformations. That's something that is fundamentally important. And it's the basis of any sadhana that we do. Independently of what is the sadhana, it's something that we should take seriously into consideration. Yes. Thank you. Also, I gave these teachings on the 9 mixings some years ago. At the time, we would not make the recordings on video for streaming. But we have the audio, and they're all in SoundCloud when you can listen into the 9 mixings. And it's a much more detailed explanation about this specific part of the 9 mixings, which I gave also before. No? So I think this is all for this time. And it's not the end, but it's the beginning, in the sense that we need to practice, we need to take it. And it makes me truly happy that we have, in this crazy world that we live nowadays, we have 4 days to talk about something so profound and so important. It makes me very, very happy. Okay? Just saying that what I gave these days, my idea was to share with you the basis of understanding of the 3 transformations that can be applied to any sadhana. Yamantaka, Vajrayogini, Tara Chittamani, self-healing, 5 Dhyani Buddhas, whatever practice we do, we can apply this knowledge of the 3 transformations. Okay? And Tunkalo Sentrinle, for example, explains to do the 3 transformations with the practice of the Guru Yoga with the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, which is actually self-healing. It's the same thing, actually, in a way. He just explains slightly different, but it's the same practice, okay? So this is all. And now we do our final dedications, okay? And we have given this little postcard to everyone, where there are here, this is called the 6 Dhyani Buddhas, which is Vajrasattva plus the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. Vajrasattva also represents the union of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, okay? And when we do the practice of the 3 transformations, we can visualize ourselves as one of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, or the 6 Dhyani Buddha Vajrasattva, or one of the 5 great mothers also. And in the back, there are the elements of the process of death. And if we do that upside down, from down to up, is the process of rebirth. Okay? So for us to remember, and as we go through it, this I didn't say in English before, as we go through it, it's also possible, like Rinpoche somehow, he is very, very kind and very wise. So he has his ways of making us do things without we are knowing we're doing it. And he looks like he makes the sadhanas more short and so on, which is not really true sometimes. In the sense like there are aspects in the sadhanas like the 3 transformations which normally are not really so extensive. Then when we do Rinpoche, we go there. Lama, Lama, then we go Lam, Lam, like 45 minutes just to do the process of death, bardo, and rebirth. Which is wonderful and it's beautiful, and that's actually where we should do this meditation. No? When you do Lam, 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 we stabilize the earth element as it dissolves. Shanti Kurya Soha pacify. Atikana Tikiti Soha request the blessing. So we connect to the pure aspect of that element as it dissolves. And like this we go on from one to the one until clear light. Okay? One thing only. Important point, which Rinpoche also told me to explain, generally speaking, but there's just one, not a curiosity, but one important just detail just I wanted to share. When we meditate on clear light technically happens in the heart. Okay? In the heart, because that's where the indestructible drop is. But there are different teachings, and that's also how Rinpoche is teaching us, that on the moment of the path, we meditate generating clear light in the navel. Where we do the practice of the clear light, we focus on the navel. You know, many people in the beginning say, oh, Rinpoche, isn't that a mistake? The clear light should be in the heart, not the navel. The reason for that is the following. The actual clear light is in the us to be able to awaken the clear light is in the navel, which is the tomb of fire. It's through the tomb of fire that it melts the bodhicitta, makes the mind to go more inside the central channel. So the condition to enter into clear light is in the navel. So we give emphasis to the condition in order to get the result that is the clear light that is in the heart. Okay? This is the reason why Rinpoche puts the clear light in the navel and not in the heart. Okay, just to one detailed. Chetsun lame kutse rapten chi namkar tinle chochur gepadang losan tempe dreme sasumgi drove munsel tatu negyur kewa kuntu yanda lamadan dralme cheki pela longche ching sadan lamge yente rabzone dorje change kopan yurto besho chanchu semcho rimpoche make panam ke gyurchi kepa nyampar mepa yang kongne kontu pelwar sho gewa di nyurdo da lama sange drupgyurne Drowa chikyang malupa te sala ke parasho. Nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delek shing. Ninsen takto delek pe koncho sumge jingi. Koncho sumge ngodrup tsol, koncho sumge trashi shon. At dawn or night or midday, May the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.